I think that the state of the world that we are in right now is really horrible. I want my rights back. I'm pissed off. I need Trump out of office. And yeah, no kings.
This is about a handful of the wealthiest people on earth who, in their insatiable greed, have hijacked our economy and our political system in order to enrich themselves at the expense of working families throughout this country.
Fascism will not be the end of American democracy. American democracy will be the end of fascism.
Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands.
So the Dems punch back, finally. No kings and election success. But does that mean the Democrats are really back? We are looking ahead with some big questions and even bigger answers. Hi, I'm Dan Harris.
And I'm Claudia Koestler. You know, as a journalist, I've reported on many elections and marches around the world, but the massive No Kings protests and widespread Democrat victories, they felt personal. Today, you'll hear the voices from No Kings marches and how the Democrats can keep winning because they need to if they want to turn the tables big time. Spoiler alert, Dan has a plan.
Well, it's more of a to-do list, but hopefully it'll help the pro-democracy forces move to the next level.
Well, every bit helps. And your points are gold for everyone who wants to change politics into something better than it is today. But before we get into the next steps for the pro-democracy, anti-Trump movement, and your Dan's playbook for it, don't forget to like, smash the subscribe button, and share this podcast. Please, we appreciate it. And this helps feed the algorithm beasts. And be sure to add your comments down below as well. What do you think should be done next to save the US and democracy? The No Kings grassroots march was a precursor to what was going to come in the election. 7 million marches across all demographics. That was impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Some prominent politicians were there and involved, like Senator Bernie Sanders and Chris Murphy, and House representatives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jamie Raskin. But it was really led by 200 grassroots organizers, like Indivisible, Leah Greenberg and Ezra Levy, for example, the ACLU, Move On, Public Citizen, American Federation of Teachers, AFT, and service employees, the International Union, SEIU, and the 50501 movement. The Democrats weren't the organizers, but they undoubtedly benefited in the elections that followed.
Yes. Well, first, let's remind ourselves of what it was like in the city of the founding fathers. I'm talking about Philadelphia here. Asking the questions is Mark Brack, professor emeritus from Drexel University. Let's go to Mark.
So, why are you here?
Because I think it's important to keep our democracy.
Because I'm Quaker and the spices matter to me. Simplicity, peace, integrity, equality.
Equality and stewardship. What do you hope comes out as a result of these marches?
That others that are on the border of pro-Trump or anti-Trump flip to anti-Trump and see what the overwhelming belief is that we need to save our democracy, and what's going on right now in the White House is anything but upholding our democracy.
Why are you here?
I am here because we've been experiencing over the past decades a white nationalist Christian takeover of this country, and it's been coming for a long time, and now it's here. And I think I speak for a lot of the people here when we don't want that, and we're not going to tolerate it. This is a democracy for all people, not a certain group of people.
Thank you. And I want to ask you a question. You're a young person.
Yeah.
What are your concerns as a young person, especially regarding the future?
I'm concerned about a lot of things, including rights to my own body, because you never know what can happen in the future. I don't know if I'm going to have the rights to take care of myself. I'm concerned about stuff going on with the school districts and not being able to get money to pay for college, eventually going way into debt because I'm about to graduate high school this year. And I'm just worried about not being able to experience my right to freedom like everybody else has been able to for the past 200 years.
Thank you so much. What's your dream for America 4 years from now?
That we gain our rights back after Orange Man is out of office.
Thank you.
Over at the West Coast, I asked Ed Keller about the situation in Portland, Oregon, and the pictures are courtesy of Ed and also of my colleague Linus Freimark.
Greetings from Oregon. I can tell you right now why people are protesting, why they're out there, and that's because ICE is becoming more and more heavy-handed with everyone. I mean, folks sitting around peacefully protesting, playing an instrument, or being goofy and singing. I'm sure if you're on Instagram, it's all over the place. I mean, these ICE agents are grabbing people who are not harming anyone, not threatening. And this is one of the most un-American things that I think any of us have ever witnessed. It's super horrible. I'm really hoping that our Congress and Senate grow a spine and exercise the 25th Amendment of our Constitution, which is when a president isn't fit to lead, you take him out.
Okay, that was great. And then back on the East Coast in Rochester, New York, Andrew Harris and Martha Torelli did the asking on these clips. Let's go to that.
Hey there. Would you mind telling me what you're doing today at this protest?
I'm here to fight for our democracy. What Trump is doing is fucking up everything. We want our democracy.
All right.
God bless America.
Thanks, ma'am. What's your reason for joining this crowd today, ma'am?
I'm doing it for the future. I have 8 grandchildren. They're going to live through this shit. We got to stop it now. The only way to say it, the only way to stop it is say no, no, no.
Thank you.
Who got the power? Who got the power? What kind of power? You fired up? I'm fired up.
All right, so can you guys tell me what brings you here today?
Absolutely. It's time for us to say that we can't tolerate this anymore. This is an abomination of our Constitution. It's an administration who doesn't value anything that's been written and what we struggle for to establish equality in this country. It's just a travesty.
Oh! How do you guys feel about the Trump administration?
They're taking away my kids, grown kids, Obamacare and raising the price so they won't be able to afford it. And then he's funding $20 million to Argentina of our tax dollars. How does that work?
Americans feel the consequences of Trump's politics in their wallets and homes and took them into the voting booth. Zoran Mamdani was elected NYC mayor, coming from 1% in the polls early on to cover 50% and a record turnout in the election by concentrating on affordability and cost of living and equality. Abigail Spanberger, Democrat in Virginia, and Mikey Sherrill, Democrat in New Jersey, both moderates, won their governor races by comfortable margins, and Dems won down ballot and local elections across the country.
Yes, 7 million Americans. One historic march followed by big Democratic wins across the country. No Kings was not just another headline. You know, it really hit home about the healthcare losses that were happening, the jobs that were gone, and the ICE raids hit a nerve. It also reminded me of watching things, I'll date myself, back in the 60s, of water cannons being turned against black protesters in the South. That really struck home with the American public. But in this, we saw in the No Kings, we saw signs read, "Stop kidnapping our neighbors." This isn't just another abstract anymore. It's about friends and family. Americans across many demographics don't like what they're seeing and marched and voted accordingly.
Hmm. But as historic as the No Kings and election results were, the question is, will it be disruptive enough to turn the tide? I mean, in Europe, these numbers could topple leaders and governments. Protests use economic disruptions. For example, when Macron tried to raise the retirement age in his country, in France, they didn't just march, they shut down trains, they closed schools, they blocked refineries. The economy stopped until he backed down. So perhaps No Kings could have been even more effective if there were boycotts of Amazon goods and Tesla cars.
What about the media coverage, Claudia, in Europe?
Oh, it made headlines, absolutely. And those headlines made clear that something is happening over there in the US, that decent Americans are pushing back. And that pushback has translated into election results across the country, as we've seen.
It also won the airwaves in the States, and that's the main thing, and that's what Trump worries about, the most. I mean, there was wide coverage on both legacy and independent media. So the pushback against Trump from the grassroots is breaking through, as we saw in the MAGAsphere's reaction, how they wanted to call it, anti-American. They were trying to sling as much mud onto it as possible.
There was a momentum, but the question is, much more needs to be done, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, Nebby. Numbers matter. Numbers matter. But if we look at Europe, we see power means staying disruptive economically, politically, and even socially. Here's what science says. If 3.5% of the population resists or protests, change happens. We saw over 7 million. But to tip the scales, it needs to double between, say, 10 and 15 million. So this movement is halfway there, but time to crank it up. But in the future, even more can be done to be more effective. You've got to turn that momentum and energy and institutionalize it in various structures, like setting up campaign offices, recruiting volunteers from those who marched, grassroots fundraising, voter registration, voter turnout drives, that sort of thing. And I think the organizers, like who we talked about earlier in Indivisible and all that, they know this, but now we just got to see it put into action and get behind these groups and help fund them and help them get there. And all of us who went to these protests, and even have people who we know went to these protests, we got to show our support, not later down the road, but now.
Well, we've already given some very detailed possibilities what every citizen can do.
So first, improving the protests across the country by increasing their size and frequency and integrating different sectors like teachers, farmers, government employees. Get specific with the protests against those who support Trump and his authoritarian regime. Make sure you have the support of the population and their mind share. So certain protests that can really backfire. So you got to make sure that the population, wherever you are in your locale or region or country, are sympathetic at least, or even, if they can be behind you in full, that is great. That'll make it effective.
But we need to appeal to parties, to politicians, and aspiring leaders as well, because there is a void and a demand for good leaders who have a long-term vision that many can actually get behind. I know you have some excellent pointers, Dan, and please be specific, because people need real strategies. So, what do you think? What needs to happen next?
It's time for specificity man, able to leap tall generalizations in a single bound, like in the 1950s and 60s Superman TV show.
I'm too young to have seen that.
Yes, you would not know that one, but I watched it as a kid. But I've developed some strategies for the future on how to restore democracy and good leadership that benefits all. But today I'll just focus on a few. But in next week, I'll tackle the rest in a monologue, so watch out for that. But my first point in the playbook is, let's talk big and small. Big, get out even more marchers, keep growing the numbers, hit that 10 to 15 million. I know easier said than done, but point them at specific targets this time. Congress, Supreme Court, Department of Justice, the White House, but other federal institutions, and have strategies and tactics that support immigration, human rights, social welfare, the cost of living, which played such an important part in the elections. Then do small but important things as well, like voter registration drives, school board races, and recurring town halls. Make every protest a foundation for action and build data-driven follow-up. Know who showed up and bring them back. Make every protest a first step, not an endpoint.
You know what? They should also take our theme song, the
Definitely.
10% from the Pleasure Bombs. And remember, they are saying in that song, can you increase democracy by 10%?
Yes.
And use that as their anthem. We'll
Yeah.
play it at the end in full, just to tribute to all those who participated in the No Kings March. Let's do that.
Absolutely. And then secondly, turn the tables on the Trump administration and flood the zone. Own the airwaves and news cycles. Be provocative, yet remain nonviolent and peaceful. I'm going down the list here because there's a lot to cover. So I'm going to cover more in detail in my monologue. But thirdly, use economic leverage. This hurts the big boys. Mobilize coordinated boycotts. Hit corporate Trump allies hard. Imagine millions dropping X, Amazon, Meta for a week. I mean, real strikes like by teachers, nurses, government workers. Not just symbolic, but disruptive enough to make the rich feel grassroots power. The timing of these is important, like the No Kings protest was before the elections. Take one action and tell us about it on Instagram or email. We want your stories for our next episode, so we want to hear about this.
Absolutely. One more point, Dan, because I think this is crucial. People need to think internationally. If Trump succeeds in becoming a king, that gives permission to every wannabe dictator around the world. Orban in Hungary, Le Pen in France, the AfD in Germany, they are all watching. They are taking Trump as a blueprint, and they all want to point to America and say, see, democracy doesn't work, so this is really about saving global democracy.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my fourth point. You stole my thunder, but that's okay.
Sorry.
This is a global fight now. The U.S. elections in 2026 and 2028 are going to be world elections because we've seen the impact year after year, election after election of how it impacts the world, even though only a fraction of the world will actually be casting a vote. It's that important. Coordinated and unified international support is very important. We know that Trump's tariffs are hanging over every country's head like an extortion racket or bullying tactic. But every country needs to buy into pro-democratic principles and show that they can help better everyone's lives.
Absolutely. But Dan, where do you think does the Democratic Party need to come in? I mean, right now they won big in the elections across the US, but their poll numbers are still poor and they are still playing by old rules.
Yeah. Well, saving democracy isn't just for Democrats. So number 5 should be a coalition of pro-democratic forces at the grassroots, especially in politics. Democrats, GOP anti-Trumpers like the Lincoln Project or Bulwark, independents, so we're mixing both grassroots and the media there, but you get the message. But also across education, all walks of life, all in on the same page. Save democracy first, debate the rest later. Having that broad church, pro-democratic broad church, is very important. So forget about your differences, just agree on the principles, the pro-democratic principles, and work together almost like under a renewed and revitalized constitutional framework. The opposition to Trump and Trumpism needs to be a broad church with democracy at its top priority. I believe there are more of us than there are of them, so we have strength in numbers. That is our superpower that it was showed in those marches. So we have a superpower, it's in the numbers. So let's take heart in that and everything we do. We, pro-Democrats, have more to fight for than our opposition. The oligarchs and the billionaires just want to protect their power and wealth. And that only gets them so far.
Some might wonder what the objective should be. Is it specifically to get Trump out as a priority, or generally defeat fascism and save democracy?
Well, you've got to do both because they are both an existential threat. Trump is an immediate threat, but there are powers behind Trump that want to implement Project 2025 as much as possible. That's got to be stopped in its tracks. We need new leadership across the political spectrum, like de facto through midterms and up until the presidential primaries of 2028. And that also means getting candidates, new, fresh, and talented people like Mandani, Spanberger, and Sherrill, who are authentic and believable to the electorate. A new, modern, forward-looking leadership, not just in the House and Senate, where Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer have been criticized for their weak and ineffectual leadership, but look elsewhere in the country, particularly among governors. They need de facto leaders to take it to Trump in the run-up to the midterms and then thereafter in 2028. They need them to come forward now and not wait. After a party loses a presidential election, it's usual for there to be a leadership vacuum until after the next midterm elections. But the game has changed. They can't wait. Come to some understanding and don't let the old Democratic National Committee establishment stitch things up regarding who they should be. Because losing 2 of the last 3 presidential elections to a candidate like a convicted felon, malignant narcissist, and adjudicated rapist like Donald Trump should be totally unacceptable and unforgivable. So have preliminary or prelims soundings featuring a spectrum of candidates from across the country. Give them a platform to promote their views on their candidacy and policies. This can be done regionally and then brought together on a national level. This will foster new ideas, creativity, and innovation, which the Democratic Party badly needs. It also can gain airtime in the media away from Trump and MAGA, helping to build a candidate's profile and name recognition. So the powers in the DNC and Congress need to see this as an opportunity instead of a threat to their positions, which should be doable if they have the greater interest of the party and the country in mind, and help avoid this political vacuum at this dangerous time.
Wow, excellent, Dan. Thank you so much. I can't wait to hear all the other points, actually, because I do think they are very much down to the point and a blueprint how to implement something much better. Thank you so much for that. And to our listeners, if you want to support the show, drop a rating, join the community, or find us on Patreon, see us at our website at overhereoverthere.org. And if you want to support democracy, you know what to do.
And I'll give you a little preview. We're going to be talking about democratic messaging in this monologue of mine, as well as inequality. So stay tuned for that. So reach out with your stories, your humor, and your wisdom from wherever you are. Send us a voice memo or comment, and you might hear yourself next time on Over Here, Over There. No kings here, just us. And now 10% by the Pleasure Bombs.
About the money the government's found, thinking about trying to pay the round, thinking about the sound of a sweet accent, thinking about the way the words get bound, thinking about the things my mother said, thinking about painting my politics red, thinking about a song called Fred is Dead, thinking about the gun inside of my head. Can you increase democracy by 10%? Can you increase democracy by 10%? cool confound. Thinking about the dope that my best friend sounds. Thinking about the hope and where it went. Thinking about the trouble that we just had. Thinking about climbing back into my bed. Thinking about the time when my top got bled. Thinking about the God inside of my head. Can you increase democracy by 10%? Can you increase democracy by 10%? Can you increase democracy by 10%? That's right. Can you increase democracy by 10%? Things my mother said. Thinking about beating my politics rap. Thinking about a song called Friend is Dead. Thinking about the gun inside of my head.